Komal Ahmed is our kickoff speaker. She graduated from Cal only 4 years ago. Since that time, she's fed well over 500,000 individuals. She's been recognized for her work by a number of institutions, including UC Berkeley as 30 Under 30 for addressing her work in hunger. And this past year, she was recognized by Toyota with the Mother of Invention Award. Oh, very nice. I was wondering why everybody was waving. This is a person who hardly needs an introduction, but she is willing to play a video, which I thought would give you a little bit of insight into some of the things that she is tackling.
Okay, World Hunger, the jig is up. We've been told that there's just not enough food to go round. It's an impossible problem. It's a scarcity problem. It's too big a problem. It's not our problem. It's not my problem. But what if we told you it's not an unsolvable problem at all? We have enough food on the planet to feed everyone that's hungry. Fact. Actually, we have more than enough. Bam, double fact. The real problem, well, we can't get it to the people who need it. Until now. Welcome to the first time in history that we have the technology to connect excess food with hungry mouths. The homeless, the poor, the kids on the street, Copia connects them all with the food you haven't used. I'm not talking soggy scraps and half-eaten pizza crusts. I'm talking the kind of food that feeds your Instagram feed. Quinoa salads, sourdough focaccias, and freshly made salads with those little cherry tomatoes. We serve amazing food because we believe in the people we're serving. Copia doesn't have a dream. We have a plan. One that works. One that you can be part of. Copia. There's more than enough.
It's my pleasure to introduce to you this evening Komal Ahmed, founder and CEO of Copia.
Good evening. Happy 2017. Thanks for showing up semi on time. By the way, before I begin, the world does not operate on Berkeley Standard Time, so it really messes you up when you actually graduate into the real world. But it's a huge honor to be back here addressing this room. My name is Komal Ahmed, and before I dive too deep into what actually brought me here today, can you hear me in the back? Yeah? Cool. I want to see a quick show of hands. How many of you have attended a conference, a lunch at our dining hall, a wedding, and wondered, what happens to all of that leftover food? Does the bride end up taking it home? Does it magically disappear? Unfortunately, in most cases, it ends up in the trash. And I'm here to share how my team and I are changing that reality, and in doing so, solving the world's dumbest problem, hunger. It was over 5 years ago today that I brought that concept to reality. The idea that we could use the same technology that you and I use to swipe right, to request a car, to instantly connect those with excess food to those in need of that food. It's still kind of surreal to be standing here on the other side of the podium and sharing my experiences. And truth be told, I wasn't really supposed to be here at all. Especially when most of my life was catered to achieving my brown girl dream of being a doctor. So it's really funny how life ends up working out. And it was a casual walk down Telegraph Avenue and a single lunch that changed the entire course of my life. That day, I encountered a homeless man begging for food, and something about him compelled me to stop and invite him to join me for lunch. And during lunch, he sat across from me, just scarfing down his food. He was unbelievably hungry. In between bites, he shared a story. He said, "My name is John. I just came back from my second tour in Iraq. I've been waiting weeks for my VA benefits to kick in. And because I haven't eaten in 3 days." Imagine 3 whole days without food. I was outraged. I couldn't believe a veteran, someone who had given the most selfless sacrifice for our country, had come home to face yet another battle, that of hunger and homelessness. And then adding insult to injury, right across the street, Berkeley's dining hall is throwing away thousands of pounds of perfectly edible food. And so in that brief moment, I witnessed that stark reality of those who have and waste, and those who are in need and starve, and those two people right across the street from one another. I remember always being reminded by my parents, "Hey Komal, don't throw away your food. People in Pakistan are starving." Though well-intentioned and true, what I discovered after that lunch is that hunger is prevalent, and not just in the poorest nations, but in some of the wealthiest ones, where 1 in 6 Americans don't know where their next meal is coming from. And in much of the Bay Area, that number is even higher. It's 1 in 4. Men, women, veterans, children, right here, in the Bay Area of all places. And while this is happening, over 40% of the food that we produce in America is wasted. And let me be clear, I'm not talking about last night's pad thai or this morning's half-eaten croissants, but 365 millions of perfectly edible food. And for you football fanatics, that's imagine the world's largest football stadium filled to its absolute brim. That's how much food goes wasted on the daily. This stark reality between excess and access is exactly what makes this one of the world's dumbest problems. How is it that in a world with so much abundance, so much talent, innovation, so many go without food? Resolving this disparity became my life mission, so much so that I broke away from my carefully planned track, my predetermined destiny, my brown girl dreams. As a daughter of Pakistani immigrants, I had 4 very specific career paths that were laid out for me from an early age: doctor, lawyer, engineer, or a failure. And while I secretly always wanted to be a Bollywood actress, who knows, it's still possible, still young, I decided to pursue the physician track because that was the only way that I thought that I could actually help people and make a difference. And so when I was 18 years old, I got serious about planning my life. I was going to study integrated biology at Berkeley. I was going to train to become a doctor in the Navy and find the love of my life. I would be married after graduating from medical school at the age of 25 and have my first kid at the age of 28, right after my residency was over. And as you would probably expect, nothing worked according to plan. Except I did fall in love. It just wasn't with a person. It was with an idea. Yeah, I know it's corny, but it's true. Looking back at my journey, I realized there are 3 pivotal moments that transformed me from a starry 18-year-old idealist doctor-to-be to a pragmatic 27-year-old of my own tech company. The first moment begins with me as a college student in a remote village in Tanzania. 57. Not my favorite basketball player's jersey number, or even the number of times I accidentally dented my parents' car while learning how to drive. Rather, 57 is the number of patients that tested positive on my first day of setting up mobile HIV/AIDS clinics in Tanzania before I recorded my first positive. 57. I could never forget that number. After the long day had come to an end and I counted the 330 patients we tested, almost 2/3 were positive. It reached the point where I saw their rotting, blackened fingertips and facial deformities, and I already knew what their serostatus would be. And what was even sadder was that they knew too. When the counselor told them, most of them stared back emotionlessly, as if they had been told that they had the flu. Seeing the severity of the situation firsthand affected me. Really, it disturbed me in a way that the statistics I'd been bombarded with my entire academic career never could. I felt so helpless in the face of that reality. And this became the turning point for me. Yeah, I wanted to make a difference, but I realized that medicine has its limitations, especially when I lived thousands of miles away from the people I was trying to help. I would soon realize that unlike medicine, the opportunities of entrepreneurship are limitless. And I could help millions of people here at home through one simple, revolutionary idea. Moment 2. Moment 2 begins when I accidentally fell in love. 50 million. No, not the retainer cost for Brangelina's divorce lawyers, but the number of Americans who go without food every day. After my conversation with the homeless veteran, John, I was determined to help. I was a young, passionate college student. I became focused not on classes or exams, but on figuring out how to give excess food to those in need. I started by organizing the US's first student-powered food recovery movement. We recovered food from our dining halls, our on-campus events, our stadium, our arena, and then redistributed it directly within the community. It was a great start, and I finally felt like I was making a difference, but it was incredibly inefficient. I remember one day, our dining hall manager called me when I was in class, and he said, Komal, no one came to this event. We have 500 sandwiches left over, and if you don't come within the next 2 hours, we're gonna throw them away. Great. So I grab my bag and I dash across campus. I jump into a zip car, because no one really has a car at the time. I go through all the one-way streets up to our loading dock up at Clark Kerr, and I began loading this food into the van. And remember, this is perishable food, so it has to move as quickly as possible. So I'm frantically loading it in, and then I'm calling all the nonprofits I could think of in Berkeley, in Oakland, and even as far as Richmond. I'm like, hey, I have 500 sandwiches, do you need them? Like, hey, we have really great food, could you use this? A third of the organizations didn't answer the phone. A third said, no, we're cool for today, thanks. And the last third, yeah, we could take 10 sandwiches or 15 sandwiches. I'm like, awesome, now I have 475 sandwiches. And I'm quite literally on the side of the road thinking, why is it so hard to do a good thing? Why is it so hard to do the right thing? And where are all the people at that actually need this food when I have it? My intense frustration in that moment ultimately led to my inspiration. I thought about how much more efficient and effective this could be if we could connect those with excess edible food to those in need instantly with the same technology you and I have on us right now. Smartphones, and hopefully they're put away. Moment 3 is right now. It comes after several hard pivots for my life plan, which have ultimately led me to becoming the CEO of my own tech company, Copia, that works to intelligently eradicate hunger from the world. 1 million, not the cost of the studio in San Francisco, which, by the way, is getting obnoxiously ridiculous, but actually 1 million is the number of people that we will feed this year. Copia is not the first organization. Yeah, you can applaud, it's okay. It's pretty cool. Didn't do it alone, but Copia is not the first organization to attempt food recovery, but we're one of the world's most effective. The idea of sharing food with those in need is not revolutionary, it's not brand new, but Copia strives to make the process of food recovery as intelligent and efficient as possible. We built Copia to be for-profit, for scale, and to actually reach the masses in order to solve the problem. I understand that hunger is an age-old problem, but that's partly what makes it a ripe candidate for disruption, a total revolution, a 21st century solution. And Copia, it is that disruption. It is that revolution, and it is that solution. And it's time for humanitarianism to meet modern day technology. By automating the process and centering it around technology, we're not recreating the wheel. We're revamping what exists to match the needs and capabilities of our generation. So how does it really work? Well, when your company or event has excess food, you launch the Copia app. You tell us how much food you have, or you take a picture of the food, and you let us know when it needs to be picked up. Our algorithm then digests this information and will then match that exact type and amount of food to the nearest nonprofit or nonprofits that can accept it at that day, at that time. It'll also dispatch one of our food heroes to go pick up that food. And then as a full circle, we'll send you photos and testimonials back from the nonprofits so that you could see the impact that you made by spending less than 2 minutes of your time feeding forward. We also provide data and analytics that help businesses reduce disposal and future overpurchasing costs and receive maximum tax deductions for their donations. So yeah, it is really that simple and a total no-brainer. Businesses pay us to help them intelligently and easily feed the hungry with their surplus, reduce their carbon footprint, and keep food out of landfills, while also providing them the significant savings and tax deductions they need in order to stay involved. Over the last few months, we have recovered over 260,000 pounds of high-quality food, which, by the way, is enough to feed the entirety of Memorial Stadium 4 times over. That's a lot of people. In the process of recovering high-quality food and feeding thousands of people, we've unlocked over $2 million worth of savings for the businesses that work with us. And as I said before, I'm thrilled to share that we're on our way to feeding 1 million people, all with food that would have otherwise been wasted right here in the Bay Area. So let me tell you about one of our biggest success stories. As many of you know, and we've never wasted a single pound of food. As many of you know, the Super Bowl was held here in the Bay Area. And through our partnership with the Super Bowl 50 and the NFL host committee, we recovered over 23,000 pounds of food. We have recovered over 14 tons of food, fed over 23,000 people in just 2 days. And yeah, you could say, well, the Super Bowl only happens once a year, big deal. But just last week, organizers at a local tech conference requested a pickup. They were expecting 1,400 attendees. So we went there anticipating just a few hundred pounds of food, as they said. And when we got there, we found enough food to feed over 5,300 people. And that's just one conference in one city in one day. Imagine how many conferences happen today alone. And pardon my French, but that's a shit ton of food. Copia's technology, its massive driver fleet, its convenience, and its benefits empower businesses to move towards becoming more socially responsible and economically efficient. This is a no-brainer for every business, period. And moreover, hunger is not a scarcity problem. It's a logistics problem. And because it's a logistics problem, and we see companies like Amazon, like Uber, like FedEx succeed, we know that we could use the same logistics technology and solve one of the eldest and dumbest problems of our time. So all three of these were pivotal moments and choices that I made that completely altered my life plan and led me to finding the true purpose of my life. Pivoting would have terrified the 18-year-old me, but it invigorates the 27-year-old me. Because I finally realized that you can make all the life plans you want. Just remember not to write them in permanent ink. Draw them up in pencil, where you can erase them, alter them, challenge them, and improve them as life may come your way. Be open to the fact that sometimes your life plan and your dreams, no matter how audacious, how grandiose, how impossible sounding, are never too large to accomplish. The world deserves the very best from its brightest. Something that even you might have once deemed impossible for yourself. In the words of the late and great Muhammad Ali, impossible is just a big word thrown around by small men who prefer to live in a world as it is, instead of using the power they have to challenge it, change it, improve it. Impossible is not a fact, it's an opinion. Impossible is temporary. Impossible is nothing. The impossible does not exist. We live in a diverse, interconnected world, and the technology that can recover food in Manhattan can one day benefit the refugees in Malta. We know that by succeeding in the United States today, we can bring Copia anywhere in the world tomorrow. So I ask you, what do you deem to be impossible? Global warming? Solving the refugee crisis? Free and fair elections? Whichever one it is, there has never been a better time in human history to solve the world's biggest problems. And with technology, it's become more possible than ever before. For the first time, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And let's get one straight. We're not Miss Universe simply dreaming of world peace. We are Elon Musk, planning to put humans on Mars. We're innovators, game changers, juggernauts, and now is not the time to slow down. Now is the time to bring our collective resources and intelligence together, not to build another computer game, chatbot, or cat photo sharing app, but to use our creativity to solve the world's biggest challenges. So I ask you, fellow entrepreneurs, fellow bears, when history looks back upon our generation, where will they find you? Standing on the sidelines or calling the plays? I urge you all to redefine impossible, to break limits and standards that you've even set for yourself. Because 9 years ago, it would have been impossible to imagine myself standing here in front of you today as the CEO of my own company. And yet here I am, reminding you all that impossible is just another word. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
I think this is the most inspirational kickoff speech we've ever had. And now I'm hoping that we can kind of peel back a little bit and have a little chat, and then we'll reserve about 20 minutes toward the end of class for you all to have some open Q&A. So start thinking of questions, and we'll go over here. You get the cushy seat.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, really thank you for that, and for the insights. And so one of the things that's...
inspirational page. Oh, so I don't know how to click and talk at the same time, but that's cool.
Okay. One of the things that I'm kind of curious about is I think of everybody sitting in their seats here and then listening to you, and what you've done in a short amount of time it truly is miraculous. But can you just take us back for a second? So had you said when your mom was like, I can't do the accent. Como? How did you tell her, I am not going to be a doctor, I am not going to be an engineer? Can you just take us back to that conversation?
You know, so I wasn't, I'm not a typical Silicon Valley person where I'm like, I'm going to go start a startup. I never had any intention on doing that. I just wanted to solve a problem. That's it. I saw a problem in our dining halls. I saw a problem when you go to People's Park and you're standing right across from People's Park and you're seeing Crossroads Dining Hall. I had a problem with that situation. I had a problem with that reality, and all I wanted to do was solve that problem. And so I started with a student organization, and I quickly became, I think it's just to kind of sort of answer your question, but sort of not. I think that it's a false belief that entrepreneurship is based on passion. Passion is for Valentine's Day and for romance. Like, I think true successful entrepreneurs, which I don't want to say that I am, but it's based on obsession. And I am obsessed with figuring out this problem. I'm obsessed with figuring out a solution. And so I think they saw that I am obsessed. And I think, actually it was a few weeks ago when I went home for the holidays, and they said, it's interesting, because my mom works in a hospital. She said, it's interesting, I have the ability to touch, maybe I've touched 1,000 people's lives throughout my career, but you have the ability to touch hundreds of millions of lives and change an entire system for the better. And you can help a lot of people by being a physician. But I think that, that's what I mean when I say entrepreneurship is limitless, is because you don't even know the extent of the impact that you can create on the world.
So when you said you started an organization, was it Feeding Forward? Is that what you
called it? Yeah, so at
it?
the time at Berkeley, it was Bare Abundance, and then it was Feeding Forward. And then when we decided to transition away from being a nonprofit to a for-profit, we called it Copia. And Copia is the goddess of abundance, prosperity, and opportunity. And so the idea being that right now we are moving the most perishable resource there is, which is food. And once we figure that out, we could move anything. We could move medicine, medical supplies, books, clothing. Because like I said before, it's not a lack of food that's the issue. It's not a lack of resources that's the issue. It's just an ineffective distribution of it. So we want Copia to be the most effective and efficient platform for the redistribution of surplus resources.
So I'm kind of fascinated, because when you think about what Copia does, seems like social entrepreneurship, but you present yourself as a tech company. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about why you position it that way and how that has impacted what you do?
I think that, we are based on technology. I think that instead of just thinking of me as like, oh, it's so cute, you want to end hunger? That's so adorable. I think that trying to step away from that and coming to the fact that this is a business, that we have a bottom line that we're trying to meet as well, that we have margins that we are trying to improve every quarter as well. Coming to whether you're coming in front of investors or you're coming in front of a crowd of students, you want to show that this is something that's not going to just, who cares about having a sustainable company? You want a scalable company. You want to have a profitable company. So I also didn't want to spend 90% of my time fundraising. And so selfishly too, I don't think nonprofits make sense. And you have to go through starting a nonprofit and working through those challenges to understand that like spending 90% of your time asking all of these people for money, and then continuously doing that, continuously going back to the well, versus spending your time, spending the resources you have, hiring some of the smartest people, bringing together some of the best resources and the best talent, and to truly solve that problem at scale, that is a lot more interesting to me. And so that's why we transitioned our business model there.
So you had founded Copia, or in its different iterations, and then you went to Y Combinator a few years after. Can you talk a little bit about your experience? And it sounds like that helped change things or pivot things slightly, but maybe you can talk about that a bit.
Sure.
And I mean, I'm sure that you all know what Y Combinator is, but maybe you'll talk about
Sure.
what they helped you do.
Yeah, so Y Combinator is essentially an incubator accelerator program. It is the world's most elite program. It's the one that also incubated Dropbox, Airbnb, Stripe. So they all they were birthed out of Y Combinator. So we finished that last year. And they give you your first round of funding. And it's a 3-month program where you basically have less than 3 months to prove why you're relevant to the world, period. And I was a single founder. I'm still a single founder. And I think that has its own challenges, but I've never really known anything different. So, and I think there's also a difference between, you have 186 guys and maybe 20 girls total.
So
that also has.
I mean, everybody else is with their founding team, and you.
So it's just the founders. No. Your whole team doesn't go. Every Tuesday you have a Tuesday night dinner, and if you guys do end up starting your own company or joining one, Y Combinator is incredible. I have nothing but the highest things to say about the entire program as well. So it basically, you have a metric that you're measured on. So you have group office hours, and then you have partner office hours, and so. During that time, during group office hours, you'll have maybe 10 companies in a circle, and you are like, one of the things that I loved and I appreciated about Y Combinator, when our first day they started, they said, you know what, we have already invested in you, don't lie to us. Don't lie to us, because we can't help you. And if we don't know what's going on, then there's nothing that we can do. All of the thousands of companies that have gone through us, you're not gonna benefit from that experience. And so we have 10 companies around, and we tell one another, like, the dumbest crap we did that week, why didn't we achieve our goals, what's going wrong, where we could use help, and it's a very honest, I don't want to say a therapy session, but like an accountability session that you're going through, and everyone presents. And then every other Tuesday, then you're meeting with the group partners who will rail into you, who will rip you new, and they will, I forgot this is on camera.
It's all right. It's really all right. So what are some of the uncomfortable things that you have to talk about? What isn't working? Sometimes the most interesting things are the things that aren't working.
Yeah, so what you measure is what matters, right? And so it's about figuring out what is the most important metric that you're supposed to be measuring. So for us, we're like, should it be pickups? Should it be the number of pickups that we're successfully doing? And a pickup would be, someone requested for us to come pick up the food and then it just dropped off. Is that the number of times that happens? Is that what's most important? Is it the number of customers? Is it the number of pounds that we're actually moving? Like, which one is it? And for a while, for the first few weeks, we tracked pickups. And so what they want is they want to see growth 10% week over week on whatever that one metric is that you're measuring. And so you want to also make sure that you're measuring the right metric. And what we realize is we charge businesses as a volume fee, so it doesn't really make sense just to be measuring the number of pickups, because obviously you want that to increase, but you also want the volume per pickup to increase. So what we should be measuring is pounds. And also I realize in the team, nobody's really motivated by oh my God, we completed 10 pickups today. That means nothing. But you can correlate, and I mean, there's a very distinct, the number of pounds equates to the number of people you fed. And that is a lot more motivating, both internally within the team as well as externally as well.
If somebody had talked to you, let's say second year, when you were a second year, because I imagine that somewhere that's kind of
Berkeley.
our average here, when you're at Cal. Or, I don't know, maybe you listened to someone speak, but what do you wish that someone had said to you in this type of a situation? Is there anything that would have been helpful to know?
Honestly, I think that the only person that can stop you is what I said, I mean, we've seen very clearly, recently that it doesn't require many qualifications to hold some of the highest honors of office, of the country,
I
of
see you're
positions.
Republican. Okay.
Yeah, you don't really need to be as qualified as you normally used to be. So, and I'm not trying to make a political statement there. I'm saying that there's nothing that qualifies me more than you to be able to solve this massive problem. Like, I'm not supposed to be here. I was supposed to be a physician. My path was so laid out, so much so that I had, I agreed to join the United States Navy to do so. So I guess what I tell my brothers, because they're in college, my youngest brother's in college, and I say to him all the time, it's like, be open. He's like, he wants to be a journalist, and I'm like, so you want to be perpetually poor? Got it, okay. But cool, guess you'll be coming staying with me. But I say is just to be open. Right now is the time to let yourself explore what you don't know what you don't know. And so now is the time to be in classes like this, learn from various speakers, get be a sponge and get as much knowledge as you can, because you're gonna surprise yourself about the abilities that you have and the decisions that you make. I never thought that I could do this. Now I don't know what I can't do.
What you're doing it's so motivational and you have an incredible amount of energy. So when I talked to Komal, it was, I think, 5:30 at night, and I had this feeling like your day was just starting. And I think you'd been going most of the day. I have a couple of questions to ask you about the business, but I'm just wondering if you could give us a little clue onto kind of what you did today.
Oh dear.
It seems very glamorous, because I didn't say this in the introduction, but you've spoken to the UN, you have had these incredible venues, and that's what people can see when they're looking, online at you. But I'm just wondering, if we just peel that back, if you could describe the day.
Sure. I finished our investor update. I had to talk to a bunch of our investors and what we achieved in Q4, and then we were doing a new product rollout, and we had to talk about just the different designs, how is that going to be used, how is our inventory management. I mean, it's a lot of unglamorous stuff, so I don't know how many details you want to get into, but yeah, I mean.
I'm curious, when you had to do your investor update, are you writing on a Word document? Are you doing a PowerPoint? Or
so what we do is we send them on a quarterly basis. We'll send them everything, whatever has gone right, what are not even what's gone right, what's gone wrong, what are our numbers, what are our stats, where are we doing any hires, and then our asks, right? And so, and also we'll put some publicity in, and I'm like, this is what we've gotten for free, y'all. And then share this, and then I'll put in size 14 or 16 font in a different color. Here's where we need your help. So, and i.e. your roll up the sleeves call to action. So we also, I think, whenever you decide to actually raise money, kind of deviating from your question, whenever you decide to raise money, you want to be very careful as to who you're partnered with. And investors matter just as much as your co-founder or someone you decide to start a business with or someone you decide to start a life with. They really, really matter. So do your investors. And so ours were people that I was comfortable having part of my journey, because they're going to be, this is not a quick sell, right? I'm not going to be selling this for $1 billion, and there's investors who ask me, they're like, so, what's your exit strategy? And I'm like, when hunger is eradicated, I guess. But that's your first meeting. Within 15 minutes of our conversation, that's our first question. And that also tells you about an investor too, I think, because I think, again, you want to be partnered with people who are looking, depending on what your company is, or who are looking for, what are the next 10 years going to look like? How is the world going to transform because of what you've built here? How is it going to be not just incrementally, but exponentially better? And so I think it's that. Also strategizing. So I wanted to do the food recovery for the inauguration when I thought it would be a different candidate winning. And I thought it would be so cool, the food fit for the White House, it's fit for everyone else. And so I got an opportunity because someone reached out to us and they said, we think that it would be incredibly awesome to use Copia and recover all of the surplus food from the Academy Awards. And the Academy Awards, all the ancillary events, Vanity Fair party, Governor's Ball. And so today was spent just thinking like, okay, well, how do we actually execute on that? You think of just like, here's another, wow, I'm all over the place. But here's another thing.
That's probably metaphorical. You have to be all over the place, so go ahead.
Another thing that I've realized is that no doesn't necessarily mean no. No means not now. And when you think that one thing that you really, really wanted, you were so disappointed by, like didn't happen, sometimes something bigger and something better that you could never have fathomed happens. So yeah, we decided not to do the inauguration, but the Academy Awards, which is slightly more prestigious this year and slightly less controversial, is an extraordinary opportunity. I think thinking about that's really cool. Thinking about expansion, so we've received over 60,000 requests for global expansion from city officials, from government officials in Germany and Austria who are like, we want to use Copia, we want to help it expand here to help redistribute food to distribute food and other resources to the Syrian migrants. And that's a use case I could never have thought about when I was a senior at Berkeley. But that's what I mean by being open, because you have no idea the incredible possibilities that can happen with just with one conversation or one article or one idea.
How many people, or how do you categorize people who actually work with Copia or work for Copia?
Well, I pay you if you work for Copia. But you mean like the food providers, the recipients. Okay, so food providers, the kind of food providers we work with, and / if you know of, we're always getting more of, are food management companies, so Sodexo, Aramark, Bon Appetit, Berkeley's Dining Hall signed on as a paying customer, which they weren't when I was a student, so what? And the 49ers, we announced our partnership with them formally 2 weeks ago, Stanford Hospital. So we work with universities, hospitals, corporate cafeterias, so the Genentechs of the world, and massive catering companies. And so we recover food from them, both on a regular basis as well as on a ad hoc basis. And then the nonprofits we work with are homeless shelters, senior citizen homes, domestic abuse shelters, veterans agencies, after-school programs for underprivileged youth. And then our drivers are, they're food heroes. They are, a lot of them are veterans. A lot of them were actually previous recipients of the food that we provide, so that it's not just a handout, but a hand up as well.
So what about people, how many people are in your office?
8 full-time staff, then we have a network of 200 drivers.
And if somebody here, we have 300 students, different levels, wanted to do something to help out in some way, what could they do?
Oh my God, so many things. Well, you should reach out at jobs@gocopia.com. But there are plenty. Well, if you email that, you probably won't get an email response. But if you email jobs or hello@gocopia.com, there's a pretty good chance you will. We're hiring for so many different positions, right? So thinking of like city launchers, of social media, of business analysts, operation analysts, engineers. We are engineering one of the most difficult technological advancements of our time. So, you are hacking hunger, quite literally. So we're looking for it all.
Are there, and so if somebody is
Internships
interested
specifically
in,
too.
Let's just say social media. If someone was interested in doing something for social media for you all, is it something they could do part-time?
Yes. So it's not just all full-time positions. There are internships. There are definitely opportunities here. And again, one of the best things that you can do, if not even work for us, is to connect us with businesses or less so restaurants, because the restaurants have lower volume of food, but more so, companies and other organizations that actually have surplus food. That would be really fantastic.
So you said that you went home. Mm-hmm. Do you ever have a vacation?
No.
That's
I think I said it. It was like, hunger never sleeps, and neither do I. And it's true. I think we use Slack as one of our internal messaging tools, and Jenny, who's here, who's our awesome UI UX designer, she could attest that they get pings at like 3:30 in the morning and 5:15 a.m. And it's not glamorous, guys. Like, don't don't be fooled. This is not for the fair weathered. Like some people, not everyone should be a CEO. Not everyone should be a founder. Some people are great, first through fifth employees. Some people are great number 25 employees, and that is totally fine. There's no shame in that. My point in being here is not to say that everyone should go out and start their own company or everyone should go out and start their own nonprofit. Please no, don't think that. It is fucking hard. It is hard every day, and hard in ways that you wouldn't even think it would be, right? You have the normal ways of like raising money and like finding good people, but then motivating them, and then keeping money in the account, making more money, and then you're dealing with challenges that you never thought possible even within your team, and how do you build a culture? How do you, someone broke up with their boyfriend, someone's like grandma passed away, someone's cat is sick, someone is, baby's being born, like just different things, and it's hard because it is so lonely. It is so lonely. And I'm, again, not saying it to bum you out, but it is lonely. And I'm not even at the top yet, but it's lonely where I'm at. And because very few people can understand the kind of responsibility. Your responsibility, not just to the people you serve, but also to the employees that you have. You're responsible for their livelihood. And for me, it's not even like, I don't have the luxury of failing. We're not creating another widget or another gadget. We're trying to solve a global problem. And there's not just a few people that are going to be affected, or 8 people, or 208 people with drivers and our employees. It's going to be a lot of people affected if I didn't do what I did every day. And that's a massive responsibility.
So I think that kind of brings things full circle in terms of New Year's resolutions or feeling stress. But Komal, I just want to thank you, but I also want to reserve about 20 minutes for a little bit of open Q&A from you all.
Sure.
So I have a question about your business model. Could you talk a little bit more about the value proposition to your drivers? Maybe a little bit more about how you earn revenue, and also, do you have a lot of fixed assets like warehouses and things like that you have to maintain? And what's that logistics? How does that logistics kind of flow?
Sure. Thanks. What's your name?
Will.
Will. Hi, Will.
Will Lucas.
Well, Lucas, great questions. So we're point-to-point distribution, so we don't have fixed assets. We are a variable cost model. We pay for the drivers because it is point-to-point distribution. That's also what makes the cost so low, because what he's basically saying is like, do you have a facility that you bring all this food to? Or do you have like refrigerated trucks that you buy or vans that you buy? And the answer is no. We do rent refrigerated vans with very big pickups. So for like the Super Bowl, which by the way is like four 16-foot refrigerated trucks filled to the absolute brim that we filled in 2 days. Like that, for things like that, yes, we have a refrigerated van. Otherwise, we use insulated bags to actually pick up the food and deliver it. Here's some of the business values that we add. And businesses pay us just like as an anti-waste management company. So if you've kept up with some of the news, countries like France and Italy have banned food waste. And it's not just a slap on the wrist, it's $80,000 fine, punishable by 2 years in jail for businesses and grocery stores that don't actually partner with nonprofits. And though I don't think that we're gonna have something like that, I wish, have something like that here in the US, I do know that those same types of bans are taking place throughout the country. So in New York, in San Francisco, in Seattle, all of these different places are starting to implement food bans, which are charging businesses that actually don't donate their food or put it to a higher purpose. And so similar to composting, we charge a volume-based fee. And these businesses end up getting, because of the way the Congress has written the tax law, they end up getting 200 to 400% back of cash. And that's a incremental cash benefit to their bottom line for the food that they donate instead of throwing it away. So we're essentially unlocking the value of the food that you would have otherwise left on the table or worse, in the trash. And we take a percentage of that total tax deductible write-off.
Yeah, I have a question for you. What pushed you to a for-profit status?
Got it. I was like, where are you?
What pushed you to a for-profit status coming from the nonprofit realm, and how was it selling to your first sign-on?
Did you not just hear me, bro?
If you
We
could
built
dive into
Copia to
that.
be for profit for scale. To be very simple. I mean, it's hard running a nonprofit, right? I'm saying I'm solving the world's dumbest problem that requires some of the world's smartest people. And those people require salaries. And you just can't fundamentally do that as a nonprofit. And I wanted it to be, this is not just a Bay Area thing. It's not just a cool club to be a part of. This is a legitimate company. And the idea of when you have to generate a certain amount of revenue, when you have to have investors and stakeholders that you're responsible for, it puts a different kind of edge on you, an edge to actually scale intelligently and not just like shit resources everywhere, right? And vice versa, or to only serve certain constituents. No, I mean, I care about children so much, but I'm not gonna only use the food that we recover and only feed children with, which are some of the restrictions that you get when you get nonprofit funding. It doesn't make sense fundamentally and not all companies or organizations should be nonprofits, but if you have a revenue model, anyone else will tell you the same thing, I highly encourage you to be an actual business or run your nonprofit as a business.
My name's
You know what, I'm gonna pass it on because we've got so many hands. But it might come back.
Okay.
Cool. Well, quick question for you. So you talked about motivation, keeping your employees motivated. How do you communicate your motivation that you express with you're being kind of crazy about this problem? How do you communicate that to your employees?
The 3:30 a.m. text message. How do I communicate that to? I think, let's see. Last week, so I had our kickoff team meeting, and there's a few things I said. I think I said I showed them the pic of the stadium. That actually showed, I said, this is what we did, and it was a different stadium, and so I was like 3x, like imagine all of these seats 3 times over, that is what you did. And I said, because we were able to do that, because we were able to feed hundreds of thousands of people, there's no reason why we can't feed hundreds of millions of people. I said the same widget story. I said, we're not creating another cat photo sharing app. This is not gonna just incrementally impact thousands of people's. This is going to be exponentially impactful to hundreds of millions of people's lives. I said, this is John Locke type tabula rasa, which means like the blank slate, because we just moved into a new office with white walls, and it's 2017. And I said, I want us to learn from all of the experiences from our past and all of the mistakes we made, and I want us to create this masterpiece together. It's no longer the Copia show, which it has been for a very long time. And that's not to say that my story isn't going to be one that's going to be shared, or that isn't one that I will continue to share, but that I want every single one of you to have your own story. And I want to hear it. And I know that everyone else in this room wants to hear it. And I want you to find your own voice. And that this will only become a masterpiece if we all work together and work better and smarter than ever before. I don't know if it worked, but that's what I said.
So I had a question over here. My name's Divi. I'm a first year at Cal over here.
Stand up.
Yeah, sure. I'm a first year engineering student. When you guys were first creating the company and you were creating your business model, what were your thoughts going through your head to make sure that you would have a market share, to make sure that other companies that are trying to achieve the same goal didn't take over your model? Did you guys pursue patents? Like, what was...
You were
the
thinking
ideology?
way too ahead. I was like a senior at Cal. I was not thinking about patents at that time by any means. I still don't think about patents because patents are extremely expensive, and you still have to fight the patent troll. So, I think eventually we could get there. But the idea of, you don't know what you don't know. There's so much we don't know still about what if Trump changes the tax law? How is that going to impact our business model, as an example? There's still so many what ifs and unknowns here. Right now we're creating a playbook of how do we operate Copia in San Jose or in Silicon Valley versus San Francisco. San Francisco is very dense. The distance between a nonprofit that we deliver to and a for-profit that we pick up from is 1 to 3 miles. It might take you 45 minutes with traffic, but that's the distance. Whereas in San Jose, you can't park in San Francisco, but the distance between a nonprofit and a for-profit is 7 to 12 miles. How does that impact? And remember, you're still moving food, so you have to think about all of those things. So those are the different things that once you learn more, you're able to make more experiments. It's also interesting the things that you can do with data that we didn't know that we could do before. So for instance, I'll give you two examples. One, Stanford. So when it's raining outside, more people get in car accidents. More people get in car accidents, more people in the hospital. More people in the hospital, more food is consumed. More food is consumed, that means less food is wasted, which means that less food is given to us. And so that's a a correlation that you were able to draw between surplus food, weather, and donation amount. So those kinds of things. Another is, so more people go to men's basketball games than female basketball games. But over a 6-game period, we could tell through the ID swipes of a university that more women attended these male basketball games and more vegan hot dogs were consumed. Therefore, over a 6-game period, they could actually reduce the amount of surplus regular hot dogs that they purchased by over 50%. So those are the kinds of stats and things that we're learning that we can then further enhance our technology, our capability, and our services from.
So I think we're going to do 2 more questions. So if you have a really good question, ask it. We'll do 2 more, and then there'll be an opportunity.
No pressure.
To come, yeah, no pressure. Come and talk and ask some individual questions. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Better be good.
Hopefully. So how do you manage surge, like rushes in food delivery for your partners? So for example, right, if you have a conference that has a lot of food, then for that one day and that one event, there's a lot of food given to the nonprofits, but then the next day, the nonprofits don't get that amount of food. So how do they feed the veterans or the homeless people when they don't have that amount of food coming in the next day?
Yeah, and I mean, you have the opposite problem too, right? So for instance, during Thanksgiving and Christmas, that's when everybody remembers people go hungry. The 360 days a year, it doesn't even matter. But Thanksgiving and Christmas, people are getting fed. And so all of these nonprofits are filled, they've seized their capabilities of actually accepting food. So yeah, we deal with that kind of stuff, that volatility, different times during the year. On Fridays, it's crazy the amount of pickups that we get because people are, they're closing their fridges for the weekend, or they don't operate on weekends, or they need to get their food out, whatever it is. So yeah, you see these volatilities and you learn them and you figure it out. I think some food to a nonprofit is better than no food to a nonprofit. And also, we also reject donors. We reject food providers because there's a certain type of standard that we want to. We think that food, doesn't matter what socioeconomic status you have, should be given with dignity, and it should be high quality food. So when we're moving, even food from the Super Bowl, it was not popcorn and hot dogs. It was $300 cheeses. It is pulled pork. It is, filet mignon. It is salmon rolls. It is, there's the kind of food that we recover is far better than what I eat on a daily basis. And also, so these nonprofits are, though it can be frustrating at times, we also know that the more businesses we can get on board, the more food we can get. The more food we can get, the more food that we can deliver. And so that's really a scalability question versus a volatility question, I think, when I think about it as terms of difficulty.
Well, so how do you deal with the excess food to nonprofits? I didn't think you quite understood the.
So we understand. Go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah. So how do you, when all these nonprofits get an excess amount of food, how do you manage that? Because you just recognized that there was a problem, but you didn't really.
Sure, no, that's
Yeah.
great. We first have to understand exactly what their needs are. So they create a dating profile for us, right? So the nonprofit. So they'll say, this is who we are, this is the type of clients we serve, this is the type of food that we can accept at this day, at this time, this is our storage capacity, this is our freezer capacity. So we have all of this information in our database. And so then our algorithm will then match the food based off of their needs when we actually have surplus food available. And what it'll also do is it'll also call them, so there'll be a notification that goes through to the nonprofit, and they could accept and reject the food. So in cases of where everyone remembers there's excess food available and they've already hit their capacity, they could still reject it, and it'll tell you the next nonprofit to take it to, and our system will automatically route the driver to the next nonprofit. Does that answer your question?
More or less. Thank you.
Okay, cool.
All right, we've got one more question. I think it's Renee in the back.
Right here.
Oh, wait. Oh, yes.
Did no women want to ask me a single question?
We'll have the last question for a woman.
Okay, cool.
So when
Go
you're
ahead.
done, pass that straight up here to the woman next to the blue shirt.
Yeah. So you said
Raise
that
your hand, ladies.
you're a
Go ahead.
global company and that
I'm sorry, what?
You want to end global hunger, right? World hunger. But the majority of your target population is in countries where logistical tools such as drivers and nonprofits and roads, in fact, do not exist. So how do you approach that problem on the global scalability level? Like, what are your plans going outside of America?
So I solve it here at home first. I don't pretend to know what I don't know what's happening. I'm from Pakistan. I have no idea what's going on there. I have no idea how I would tackle it there. But I'm gonna figure it out, and I'm gonna do it the best I can here. And then I'm gonna figure it out, and I'm gonna do it the best I can in LA, and in New York, and then in Canada, and then in London, and then in all of the places where it does work. And I'm gonna then license the technology to the people that can understand these problems in the countries where I don't know what I don't know. So it's not gonna be, like I said, it's not gonna be something that's gonna happen tomorrow. It's not a 2017 resolution that world hunger is gonna end this year. But it is a resolution that it's going to dramatically end, and definitely in our country, because hunger sucks everywhere, right? It definitely does. That's a really great quote. But it is unacceptable here. In the wealthiest, most prosperous country, it is unacceptable. And like I said, if we can use logistics, if Uber works here, if Match.com works, if FedEx works, if UPS works, then we can use those same types of logistical platforms and those matching algorithms and use it to solve that problem here.
If you pass the microphone up, there's a crowd right up here of women. Get your question ready, one of you.
Can I just ask you?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you for coming. I think what I wanted.
Alex, can you hear?
Thank you. Okay.
No, there.
Thank you for coming. What I wanted to ask is, you mentioned about being a CEO and a founder, it's really hard and difficult. What's a motivation that you'd have for more women and just someone that'd be interested in going kind of that route, or what is it that gives you that motivation? Even though you're staying up at 3 a.m. in the morning, I know, does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't think about it in terms of my gender. I don't think of it as a liability. I don't think about it as a strength. I think about it. I don't know. I never really think about I'm a woman. I identify it when I don't see a woman. I identify it when I'm talking to other people versus when I just think about it in terms of myself. I don't know if that made sense, but meaning I can see when a woman isn't going to raise her hand and ask a question versus me just being a woman that is an entrepreneur. And what I am most motivated by are the people that I help. We delivered to a nonprofit last week, and I was the one who did the pickup, and it was miserable. It was 4 p.m. on a Friday, and I'm stuck in traffic, and I'm trying to drive 3 miles, and it takes me 48 minutes, and I'm so upset. And people are totally incompetent in driving in general when it's raining. And so we finally get to the nonprofit, and the woman opens the door, and she sees all of the food that we're bringing in, and she has tears in her eyes, and she throws her arms around me, and she's just like, if you hadn't come today, 283 people wouldn't have eaten. Women, children, they wouldn't have eaten. And that really it takes the breath away from you, because you're just I can get over myself. So what? I was stuck in traffic for a little bit. I actually gave these people, people who could have just as easily been you, just as easily been me, food. So yeah, that is the end motivation for me. Sure.
I want to thank you all for listening. I want you all to please not only log in your attendance at the link above, which is how it'll work, but you also have the opportunity to give Kamal a little bit of feedback, and that would be greatly appreciated. And now
I'm
a
great at it.
rousing applause.